Hi, welcome to another edition of In the Clubhouse. I'm Bob Busser. Today I'm going to be talking to bassist extraordinaire Tony Saunders, and we're going to talk about his dad, Merle. Tony has played with anybody you can think of, from the Grateful Dead people to jazz greats to Rudy Sarzo, you name it, he's played with them. He's got a new album out, or a new CD out called All About Love. And with that, I'm going to introduce you to my good buddy, Tony Saunders. Hey, Tony, welcome to In the Clubhouse.
Hey, glad to be back in the clubhouse. In the clubhouse is where it's fun to be.
Thanks, brother. So, Tony, tell me about your All About Love album. How'd that come about, and what was the inspiration behind it?
Well, All About Love, so my last CD before this was called Sexy Something. And on my CD release party was March 20th, 2020. That was the weekend the world shut down. So my gig was canceled, and we were ordered to stay in our house. So all of these songs on the All About Love came about because I was in the house and basically with my wife hanging out, and all these songs are like Forever Yours, because I'm forever my wife's. The best, you're the best part, because you're the best part. Friends, we're friends. We had a song called Friends. All the songs are basically about our relationship, and ironically, when COVID started, the old label that I used to be on, the guy turned 70, so he's going like, Tony, your career's picking up, so I don't know if I can keep up with you. But if you want to find another label to go to, and they want to sign you, we'll still be friends, but you can move on to another label. So my record had been number 2 pretty much all year to this guy named Niels.
Our buddy Nils.
Yeah. So I called my friend in Florida and said, Doug, I'm looking for a new label. And he said, you know what? I might know somebody that might want to take you on. And so he called his friend Tom Hayden, and Tom Hayden called me. And Tom Hayden goes, hey, Tony, how you doing? I'm from Baja TSR. Your friend Niels is on my label. And I'm going like, no way. So, so it's like, what more perfect thing? He says, yeah, I know who you are. I know that you've been chasing Niels' record for the whole year. Because for the whole year, Niels had 20,000 spins. And then I came in second with 17,000. And that was before Boney James or Dave Koz or, any of those superstars. Me and him were 1 and 2 for getting the most spins on radio. And so the guy, I went down. Well, first of all, he said, you know what? He said, yeah, Doug told me you're doing a new record. And he goes, hey, can you let me hear it before you start to sell it? And I said, yeah, because, I'm leaving my label and I'm going to, find a new label. And yeah, I'll let you have first dibs on it. And so we made a gentleman's handshake that I would send it to him first. And he called me back like 3 months later. He said, Tony, are you almost finished? And I'm going like, it just so happens I'm almost finished. This week I'm going to finish it and I'm going to send it to you. Because he said, well, can you send me a couple tracks to listen to? And I sent him a couple tracks. He called me right back. He said, those are great. If the rest of the album is like that, I know that we want to take you on. We want you to come to our family, Baja TSR Records, and you'll be on the same label as Niels. And I already knew a lot of inroads. I saw Niels work with this guy before, so I, from afar, I saw the guy work with another artist. And I said, man, they treat Niels pretty good and they pay him great. And so lo and behold, my new record, All About Love, I sent it to him. It was actually called something different. It was called Border Crossing, because I did a song with a bass player from Canada. So I said, let's call it Border Crossing. And the guy goes, we're not doing that. We're not gonna mess with that. Too much stuff happening on the border right now.
Yeah.
So he said, can you think of another title? And I said, well, all the songs are about love. So it's called All About Love. And, so we stuck with that. And, excuse me, the CD's been doing well. So it's been out almost a year now. I'm just getting to the third single. The third single's coming out June 30th. And that single is Highway 5. First, we started off with And the Beat Goes On, the Whisper song. Then we went to Summertime Love. And now we're at Highway 5. And, I love the record. It's a great record. If you don't have any Tony Saunders music, you want to buy my last 2 CDs. Sexy Something and All About Love. You really want to buy all of them. There's one song.
Where can the people get the CDs, Tony?
Of course, you can go to Apple Music, iTunes, any of that stuff like that, Spotify, whatever, Deezer. It's on every platform that you can get it. But if you want to make sure I get some of the money, go to tonysaunders.com, and there's a store on there, and you can buy them from my store. They're cheaper than Amazon and iTunes and all of the things, and I get more of a share with the money. I get actually a couple dollars instead of 30 cents. So yeah, tonysaunders.com, and my store on there has every CD I've put out. And I just had a song that was a song about a friend of mine, Chasing the Dream. It's almost at 2 million streams.
Wow.
Which for a jazz guy is incredible.
Yes, it is.
And I'm just trying to hang in there and do my thing. I love what I do. I thank God that I make a living at this. I'm very self-motivated, as you know. You have to be self-motivated at being a musician because, I don't know where I'll be working 2 months from now, but I know I'll be doing something musical. I do, to tie into my dad, my dad, everything, a lot of kids go grow up around your parents. You don't want to be like your parents, you know what I mean? Not me. I wanted to be like my dad. You know what I mean? Because he did all these fun things. He worked on movies. He, played in clubs, and he was around a lot of groups, a lot of people that were very famous.
Tell the people about your dad's friendship with Jerry Garcia of the Dead.
Okay, so, we lived on Page and Ashbury.
Yep.
My grandma's house on Page and Ashbury. So when 1965 happened, that straight Catholic neighborhood turned into Hippieville. You know what I'm saying? All of a sudden there were girls with see-through shirts, with no bras, walking down the street. So I finished my chores around 8:00 a.m. to make sure I got out there and got a good vantage point so I can see all of this happening. Threw away all my Playboy magazines. Didn't need those no more. I got real life girls walking by. And so it's ironically, I live right by the Panhandle where they played music every weekend. And my grandmother would call up and complain about the music. And she'd go, my kids got to go to bed. They got to go to school. And, they got to be in bed by 8:30 and they'd still be playing in the park, And, so she came. And then 3 years later, my dad meets Garcia. And then, he's in the basement, playing music well after 8:00 and eating my grandma's chicken, And so those two met because I learned this from Nick Gravenitis. Nick Gravenitis and Paul Butterfield came from Chicago to San Francisco. And Nick Gravenitis met my dad on a session they were doing some Standard Oil sessions. And Nick Gravenitis introduced my dad to John Kahn, the bass player, who was playing at a jam session that Jerry attended every day. So John Kahn invited my dad over to play with them, and Jerry was there, Bill Vitt was there, John Kahn. And so they met. And then and then they started playing a lot together. They liked each other instantly, and Jerry liked my dad's knowledge of jazz. And you know, I remember when I was a kid, Jerry bought me a book, The Seriousness Book of Scales, which is every scale that you can humanly mathematically play. Well, you can mathematically, there's some of them you can't play because you don't have enough fingers. But mathematically, they're correct. You know, just being around, I remember the first movie I went that my dad was working on with them was Clue. That movie, Clue, with Taj. He was working on it with Taj Mahal, Danny Cox, Jane Fonda. I remember Jane Fonda and Donald Sutherland. You know, and these were like my dad's friends. Michael Douglas. We went to, when they did Streets of San Francisco, met Michael Douglas. Michael Douglas is a deadhead.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Michael Douglas likes the Grateful Dead. Yeah. I saw him at Winterland a few times. But so like, so let's ramp back a little bit. We go, my dad, like when I first started noticing stuff was when my dad started playing music, and he was gone a lot on weekends. And so then I started going with him on weekends. And, you know, his drummer was a guy named Bill Elliot. And Bill Elliot was married to Dionne Warwick. But he's like playing a 5-day-a-night gig up in San Francisco. And I was going like, this don't make sense. How is he driving a Bentley and he's playing this gig like at this little club? You know what I mean? And then I remember, I guess he must have did something wrong, because I remember one day I came home from school and Dionne Warwick was sitting in my living room, and he's going, I walked in and she said, have you seen your dad? I said, no. I think him and Bill left a while ago. He said, well, I'm Bill Elliott's wife. My name is Dionne Warwick. And I'm going like, for real? You're the San Jose lady. Do you know the way to San Jose lady? And she goes, yeah, that's me. I'm going like, wow, I can't believe this. You're here in my house. Wow, this is incredible. And so I went outside. I told my friend Dionne Warwick was in there. Said, give me $2. You can go look at her. $2. So I was an entrepreneur right off the bat. So I bought a couple of my friends, and I said, is it okay if a couple of my friends, they just want to look at you, they don't believe you're here? And she said, yeah, bring them in, man. And so I came in there and bought them, you know. She didn't know I was making $2 off of her, but I made $2 off of her. And then Bill Elliot showed up, and you know, Bill Elliot showed up, and you know, they went on. And then she went back. She said, whatever you've been doing, you going home tonight. I remember her pointing her finger at him. And so I remember the previous couple of weekends ago, Bill Elliot was there, but that wasn't Dionne Warwick. You know what I'm saying? Oh my God. So I was like going, You know, I didn't know. I'm just a kid, right? I don't know. You know, I don't know what's up. So at this time I played piano. And so I would and then I saw the Beatles on TV, right? So after I saw the Beatles, I wanted to write my own songs, right? And so my dad would be like, boy, get in there and learn that symphony stuff. You know, you're in the California Junior Symphony. Andre Watts was the guy I had to look up to. Andre Watts was our overseer guy, you know, that great singer.
Yeah.
And so Herbie Hancock came over, was hanging out with my dad, and Herbie went, Merle, wait a minute, let's go in there and listen to him. And Herbie said, Tony, play me what you got. And I was like, yeah, I got this ding, 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 ding. And I swear, if you heard that song that I wrote back when I was 10 years old, and you listen to my music now, you just see how I made my music better. But you could tell that's my song. You know what I mean? So Herbie made a deal with my dad. He said, Merle, if he practices the stuff that he got to learn for the conservatory for 2 hours, then after that, can he work on his own stuff? My dad said, yeah, that's fair enough. You know, so I practiced 2 hours diligently, learning all my symphony, because I was in the California Junior Symphony, and then playing piano. And then, then I started, learning my own stuff. Keep in mind, I was playing piano. At 14, my dad hired me on a session to sing. Miles Davis was in town, and his bass player was named Lee Miles. And his bass player was like great. He just had so much feel. It was like, oh man, it took me out. It took me to another place. And then about 2 weeks later, my dad started working on Walter Hawkins' record, who was Edwin Hawkins' brother, younger brother. And this is when Oh Happy Day was famous. And and so the bass player playing with the Hawkins then, his name was Anthony Davis. And so both of these guys, Lee Miles and Anthony Davis, they both sounded like James Jamerson to me. They were like killing the bass. And so I went to my dad, I said, I want to play bass. And my dad said, well, this is a G-rated show. I can't say what he said, but he says, we've been putting all our money into you so you can go to the conservatory. And now you tell me you want to play bass? And I was like, yeah. So he went to Sears, got me a Sears bass. You know what I mean? So I played that for a little while. And then so after about 6 months, my dad, I didn't know this was child abuse. Every day I went to the studio with him, went to Fantasy with him while he'd be working on stuff or he'd be producing somebody. They locked me in the vocal booth and said, practice that bass, for a couple hours and then you could come out. They would actually lock me in a vocal booth. And I didn't realize I could call CPS, Child Protective Services, and say, my dad's locking me in a room. They won't let me out, but I didn't know about that. But it was to my betterment that I stayed in there. After a year, for Christmas the next year, after playing the Sears bass, my dad was friends with Tom Fogerty, and they worked together. And Tom Fogerty gave me a pre-CBS Fender bass in the case with the tag still on it. I tried to register it, and CBS this was Fender, sent me back a note and said, hey, it's been over a year. You didn't register it. So the registration, your guarantee's already over. You know what I mean? So I had this great Fender bass. And then I met John Kahn and this guy, this other guy named, they would show me stuff on bass. John White is his name. I got his picture over there in my corner of my studio. John White was the guitar player with my dad at the time. And he showed me some stuff on bass. And, and so the rest of it I just learned. And who knew that, Jack Cassidy would be a friend of mine. You know what I mean? So I got to go rehearse my high school band at the Airplane House.
Oh, geez.
I mean, when the equipment was gone, when they were on tour, Jack said, hey, you can come over every day and just rehearse your band down here. Not many kids had that. And what's the trip is all the people that I saw in the park playing, with the exception, I probably don't remember. I remember seeing Jimi Hendrix, but I don't remember seeing him. I do, but I don't. But all of the people that I met in the park that I saw play, I eventually played with, like the Hot Tuna guys, Yorma, Jack, Joey Covington, Crosby, Stills and Nash, Sly Stone. So Sly Stone also came over when I was playing keyboards, and he saw how good I was at keyboards, and he gave me for Christmas or my birthday, he gave me an organ, a B3, a miniature B3. And he said, this is because you do good work, Tony. And so I had a radio show on his show. I had a little segment that I would play my music and talk about stuff, be a little DJ. And I walked his dog. His dog's name was Stoner. So all of these guys came to my dad for advice about career stuff, because he's the jazz guy and, he's going all over the place. And, Sly Stone came there. George Benson actually came to my dad, so this is in the early 60s. All the blacks, when they came to this town, stayed at the same hotel, right? Because segregation hadn't really set in yet. So the Cotton Club and all those clubs back in New York, like the blacks could play there, but they couldn't go there. They couldn't go there and just hang out. San Francisco was the first place where blacks and whites mingled on Monday nights at this club. And they actually was the first place where they mixed. So all these guys would come into town. Jimmy Smith would come into town, and I moved my dad's organ, Jimmy Smith's organ, my entire childhood for $5. I moved. You know what I mean? But that was big money for me when I was a kid. You know what I mean? Before the dolly, we actually had to pick it up. Pre-dolly. I got my dad's organ right here. It still has the dolly attached. You know what I'm saying? But so I'm seeing all of this stuff. Frankie Beverly and Raw Soul parked their truck in front of our house when they drove from Buffalo, and they worked in the studio. They worked in a studio right across the street from our house called Royal Ashbury, but they took showers at my grandma's house. You know what I mean? When they first got here, then he changed it to Frankie Beverly and Mays, and the rest is history. So I'm seeing, like, I'm around a plethora of great people. You know, I went to the studio every day with my dad, and he was around Tom Fogerty. So I grew up around Tom Fogerty's kids. Jeff Fogerty's one of his kids, who I still talk to. We're still friends. And, you know, Saul Zaentz, the president of Fantasy, I saw when Saul Zaentz took over Fantasy. He bought it from the Weiss brothers. So there was this group in the garage that practiced. In the daytime, they moved. They did what do you call it when you move? They moved the inventory. What is that called? They worked in the shipping and receiving department.
Yeah.
These guys worked there, okay? But in the night, they would rehearse their group called the Gollywogs. You know who the Gollywogs were?
Oh yeah, Creedence Clearwater.
Yeah. So I'm seeing them rehearse. Stu, they were all, John, they were all super nice to me. You know, I knew Saul Zaentz. You know, I knew my dad's contract was jacked up. So I could imagine that John's original contract was jacked up too. But you know, they had a lot of success. Saul Zaentz, you know, won those Oscars for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and Amadeus. So he was walking in San Rafael down the street, you know, and I was playing with some band at some fair in San Rafael, and Saul Zaentz looks up at the stage and goes, "Hey Tony, how you doing?" And I said, "Hey Saul," he said, "Come over to the house after you finish playing. Come hang out with me a little while." I said, "Okay." He said, "You know where the house is, right?" And I'm going, "Of course I know where the house is." You know, after you play Cuckoo's Nest, you had this enormous house, you know, that everybody knew where it was. And so everybody knew who he was, right? And they go like, "Tony, how do you know him?" I said, "Well, my dad was on Fantasy Records when I was 8 years old, and he was the secretary at first. And then he bought the company from the Weiss brothers. And, you know, he was actually married. I don't know if it was his last wife, but his wife was married to Charlie Mingus.
Wow.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, some of these people are some of Charlie Mingus. Oh my God, this is jazz royalty that he's talking about. You know, Miles Davis, Charlie Mingus, Charlie Parker, Matthew Hall. These guys are on the Mount Rushmore of jazz. I mean, you know, yeah. It's not like the jazz you hear on some of the stations now. This is true. You know, Miles had acid jazz. It's just a different feel. It's the same
people
concept.
Can really play.
Right.
It's no joke music. It's like you had to really understand the scales.
Yep.
You know, if you played wrong, you know, it was like people go like, "You don't know how to play. You don't know how to play the changes." You know what I mean? So my cousin Eddie Moore played drums with Stanley Turrentine, Sonny Rollins, and Dewey Redman. Played Stanley Turrentine for a long time. You know what I mean? So I'm walking with David Crosby through the airport in Washington, D.C., and Crosby goes, "Wow, that looks like Stanley Turrentine." And I look up and he goes, "Hey, that is Stanley Turrentine." And just then Stanley Turrentine turned around and he goes, "Hey, Tony, what you doing here?" You know what I mean? I said, "Man, I'm working with David Crosby, you know, and we're headed to a gig." And he goes like, "Who's David Crosby?" And so I said, "You know, they have this rock group, Crosby, Stills, and Nash, and they wrote Mr. Tambourine Man. He was in the Byrds and wrote Mr. Tambourine Man." And he says, "Oh, I know that song. And he starts singing it. and Crosby went up to him and was all excited that he knew his stuff because Crosby admired him because of the stuff that he had done playing jazz music, you know. And so I was exposed to that type of jazz, you know, when I was really young. And man, so all these people, so remember that all the black guys stayed at the same hotel. They also all came over to my aunt's house for chicken on Sunday. So I'm sitting there eating chicken with Stanley Turrentine when Sonny Rollins was in town with Sonny Rollins, Dewey Redman was in town with Dewey Redman. You know, it's like, what more can you ask for? You know what I mean? Besides that, you know, I went and watched all these guys play every day. You know what I mean? Every night at this place called Keystone, San Francisco. And the club owner, Todd Barkin, would let me come in because I didn't drink. You know, I wasn't 21 either. I was like 18 or 19. He would let me come in and just stand in the back and don't you dare get a drink. You know, I was sneaking in the back and want to smoke weed, but nobody would smoke weed with me.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah. Well, I can truly say I really haven't smoked weed since high school. I smoked it a lot in high school and in my younger days. And, you know, every once in a while, you know, walk up on the stage, Grateful Dead show, and they say, Tony, make sure you're by your bed when you smoke this. And you know, it would be like the most powerful weed ever. I mean, one step and I'd be in bed. Next thing I know, it'd be tomorrow. But I have eaten edibles flying to Europe because it's such a long flight, 13 hours. I remember this lady made me some edibles, and I didn't know I was only supposed to have a couple bites. I ate the whole sandwich.
Uh-oh.
And I got to Paris. I was so high. I went outside and I went limousine. I didn't care if they ripped me off or whatever. I paid whatever. I said, I need to get to this hotel. This is the hotel. I need to get there fast. And the girl I was with, she looked like Molly McButter. So she had the sandwiches. We got right through the customs and everything. They never even looked at her stuff. Of course, they opened up my base and everything. Said, and we know you got something in there. I said, I love America. Come on. You know what I mean? So those sandwiches got across, and we ended up getting over there in Paris. And then, you know, I was back normal in a couple of days.
You have had a childhood and a life that most people dream of. You know, I mean, it's not name dropping at all, because I mean, all these guys are your friends, and of course with your dad, Merle, I mean, he knew everybody under the sun, for God's sakes, you know, and he played with everybody under the sun, you know. But it's just like, it's like I tell people, especially in music, it's a small community. You may not know them personally, but everybody knows everybody else. And yeah, I played with that cat. I you know, I was on this guy's album, you know, he was on this, da 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 da. And everybody is intertwined. It's like, what was it, the 7 things of Kevin Bacon or whatever. Everybody knows everybody else. And you know, it's amazing the stories you have to tell. And I know
I have one more that I'll share with you.
Oh, absolutely.
So my dad met Wilt Chamberlain when the Philadelphia Warriors moved to San Francisco, right? So my dad meets Wilt Chamberlain, and I don't know what was in that bag that was kept in the closet that we couldn't touch. I don't know what was in there, but I know that we kept that bag for Wilt. We also kept his Bentley when he went on the road games. So I can truly say that me and my dad beat Wilt and my brother in a game of basketball that we played in my backyard. And Wilt didn't have on shoes or nothing. And then, you know, we were playing out in my backyard. And he let me and my dad win, you know, just to satisfy my ego, I guess, or to make a kid happy. You know what I mean? But when we went out front to play football, him and my brother beat me and my dad, you know, in football. Because he was fast as heck, man. He was fast.
Well, those legendary battles with Wilt and Bill Russell back in the 60s, that was what they didn't have much TV back then, but they were legendary, you know. And Russell told the story after Wilt passed away. He said, you know, every year the Celtics would play the Philadelphia 76ers or the Philadelphia Warriors, as they were back then, at the Garden. And it was over Thanksgiving. Wilt would come to the house, Mom would feed him, and then we'd go, quote, to the Garden and beat the hell out of each other. You know, but they were the best of friends. But when you got on the court, Katie barred the door. All bets are off, you know, and you know, you cannot top that. That was some of the best basketball you would have ever seen.
And plus too, man, he was just like, you know, the memory, you know, those guys, that was some serious basketball. I got to see a lot of it close up. When he went to the Lakers, when my parents split up, my mom moved to LA. So my friend said, you know, of course I told my friends, I said, I know Wilt. And they're going like, yeah, right, Tony. So they had a day when we went there, they had an open practice, right? They said, Tony, make sure we're sitting down front so we'll be by Wilt. And I said, man, I can't do that. I can't do that. So we went to this thing, this scrimmage that they had for kids, you know, and we all had a great time. So nobody got on my case about Wilt or anything like that. So we're walking across the parking lot, going back to the bus stop to take the bus home. And Wilt comes and he goes, hey, Tony and Merle. And he called me and my brother. And, you know, so we got put on the pinnacle of, you know, with our friends. He said, you really do know him. He says, hey, I'm telling your mom I'm gonna come by and get you guys still on 12th Avenue? I'm gonna come by and get a pie. Tell me your mom I'll be by there. I think we got off Wednesday. I'll be by on Wednesday to get a pie. And so I went and told my mom, and he did come by Wednesday. And when he came by, he said, Tony, do you want to be a ball boy? And I said, yeah, I want to be a ball boy. So I got to be a ball boy on the Lakers for one season, the season that the Knicks knocked the Lakers out of the playoffs. When Jerry West made that 63-footer.
Yep, at the Forum.
At the Forum. Hey, and then they lost that game because the Busher hit a shot from the corner, and they lost that game. And man, it was something.
I got to tell you something, man. I was born in Inglewood. I was born at Daniel Freeman Hospital in '58. Okay. Yeah, right. It's gone now. They're condos, but I was born, you know, it's kind of ironic. You know, I was born where the Forum was going to be built. And of course, with my career, you know, doing all my sports history in my stadiums, it's kind of my little ironic thing. You know, I was there before the Forum, and I grew up in Torrance.
Wow. And now the Forum is the football stadium, right?
No, the Forum's still there. MSG bought it, and it's a concert hall now. The Eagles play there. They've really made it into an acoustically pleasing venue now. And it's
nice. It was always a great stadium. It was not a bad seat in there.
Oh no, except for the bathrooms. We had to go downstairs in the troughs, and the bathrooms always flooded at the Forum, you know, and the concourse was about this wide. But other than that, there was not a bad seat in the Forum, not at all.
No, it was great. It was great. Well, I didn't never sit up that high, so I never knew. But the Chase Center got stuff on every level. I haven't sat courtside, but I have been courtside when they let us in early. They gave us these special passes to watch Curry, because Curry comes out and shoot first. And he, you know, we were out there watching, we were sitting courtside watching him shoot. I'm like, my God. And then they all got their little spots. They come out in different orders. Draymond comes out. Draymond, that shot that he takes from the top of the key, that's what he practices every day. He just sits there at the top of the key. I'm nervous when he takes a 3-pointer from anywhere else, but top of the key, I'm cool with it because I know he practices that, and I saw it go in. But I mean, I saw Curry just shoot from like right below half court, and you know, with regularity. This is incredible.
When we were
but
talking,
I know, hey, as a Celtic fan, but I could tell you, I do appreciate good basketball. But you know, I know all of Sam Jones. I know Bill Russell because Bill Russell came from USF, and so I saw all the trophies that he got there. Sam Jones, Havlicek, you know, these are people I looked up to when I was a kid, and you know, those guys played great basketball. You know, but
you guys talked the other day, and when I called you and we were setting up the interview, and I told you that I was at the last Celtics game when they lost in the playoffs at the Boston Garden in '95 to the Magic and Shaq, in the last Boston Bruins home game. And for those who don't know, the Boston Garden there's no other way to put it. It was a dump. It was built for boxing. There was bad seats, but it had that mystique in it that, you didn't know what Red was going to do. Was he going to, turn off the hot water or this, or in the Celtics, they knew all the dead spots on the floor, of the parquet floor of the Garden. And it when it went down, the Ghosts went with it. But that I am so grateful that I got to see games in the Boston Garden. I also saw Styx in there in 1980 with a buddy of mine who was the original bass player for Boston, Fran Sheehan.
Oh.
We saw Styx one night, and there's a lot more to it, but we had fun. Let's just put it that way. There were no survivors.
I drove by it one time on my way from the Hall of Fame, the Basketball Hall of Fame.
Right.
Yeah, I remember it. I remember driving by it, man, and seeing it. It looked pretty awesome. I wish I could have seen the game there.
Yeah.
But, the Boston mystique, Larry Bird. I mean, Larry Bird was ridiculous. Him and Magic, that was ridiculous.
Bird could cut your head. There's a story. One of the All-Star games, I think it was in Houston, and Bird walks into the locker room when they had the three-point shooting, and he goes, "The guy who's going to win it just walked into the room. I want to know who's going to come in second." And he went out and drained it and won it, and they're like, "I can't believe that." That was just, that was just Larry. He's like, I'm gonna, he could talk I'm gonna say it, he could talk the shit, but he could back it up. He was that good.
He was real good. Remember that shot he made from behind the backboard?
Yes.
Like, come on, man.
You just shake your head and you go, that's not humanly possible. I saw Nolan Ryan pitch when I was a kid, at Anaheim Stadium. And I was a catcher, and that guy could break your mid-in 2 minutes. I mean, he threw so hard. Every pitch I've never heard this in my 55 years watching baseball. The hiss of the ball going by every time, even on his curveballs. I'm like, how does he do that? And he was, as we say, he's a freak of nature. I'm never going to see another Nolan Ryan again. Koufax was just as good. Those are the only two guys I thought I could throw a no-hitter anytime they were out there. But, it's again, that's another small fraternity, the athletes and the people in the know. And, music and athletes, they kind of transcend each other. Most people want to be most guitar players or whatever, they want to be the third baseman for the Red Sox or whatever. Most musicians, most baseball players want to be the guitar player for Led Zeppelin or something like, you know what I mean? It's they want to intertwine.
Yeah, I have lots of friends that play pro football now that they want to be musicians too.
Exactly, but the problem is they can't keep a beat. There's a big difference, Yeah. You got the guys going like this,
Yeah.
Tony, this has been fun. We're going to do this again, my friend.
Okay.
He is Tony Saunders. He has a gazillion stories, and next time we talk, we're gonna delve in more. And we have a mutual friend. I met Tony through Nils at Yoshi's in Oakland, and Tony and I became fast friends. And I'm gonna do a little plug of my own. Nils' latest CD, I shot the cover for it, so I'm very happy about it. So
that's cool. Well,
Tony,
you
my
call
brother.
him up now. He's making a new record right now.
Yeah, I got to call him. I want to have Nils on, and we're going to talk about his new record and things like that. But Tony, as always, it's good talking to you and catching up with your brother. And we'll have you on again real soon. You have anything you want to say to the people before we sign off?
No, you can hear these stories personally. Just visit my website, TonySaunders.com, or email me at info@TonySaunders.com, and I will get right back to you.
Tony, as always, it's always good talking to you, my brother. Remember, folks, he's been in the clubhouse. Remember, always take the road to the left. You never know what you'll find. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.